When you think of NFL fan bases that have had it the worst in the late 2010s to early 2020s, teams like the Browns, Jets, Panthers, or Jaguars may come to mind. Well, what if I told you there is one team that has created more pain for its fans than any of these teams put together during this time? Well, if you read the title of this video, you would know the team I'm talking about is the Denver Broncos. If you look in terms of all-time success, the Broncos easily stand above those teams. But over the last decade, there has been no team that has put together a more depressing emotional roller coaster than Denver. And as a Broncos fan myself, let me give you a look into exactly what we've had to go through. First, what makes the Broncos worse than each of those teams I just mentioned? Well, for each of them, they've given their fans a few slivers of hope in the last decade. The Browns had a first overall pick and even won a playoff game in this time. The Jets have gotten to select 2 top 5 quarterbacks and also traded for a 4-time MVP in Aaron Rodgers. The Panthers have also selected a first overall quarterback and made the playoffs in this span. And finally, the Jaguars made a run to the AFC title game in 2017 and have also had multiple first overall picks since. The Broncos, on the other hand, have achieved none of these things in almost 10 years. The departure of Payton Manning set a curse on this team that has created nightmares for its fans. So let's start there. Let's look at what happened to the Broncos each year since they won the Super Bowl and see what's gone so horribly wrong.
Payton, is this your final game for your career?
You know, I'll take some time to reflect. I got a couple of priorities first. I want to go kiss my wife and my kids. I want to go, hug my family. I'm going to drink a lot of Budweiser tonight, Tracy. I promise you that. And so I'm going to take care of those things first. And definitely going to say a little prayer and thank the man upstairs for this great opportunity. And I'm just very grateful.
As I had mentioned previously, the 2016 offseason began with the retirement of Peyton Manning. However, Manning wasn't the only player lost in the offseason for the Broncos, as a large number of key players would follow him out the door.
Osweiler signed a 4-year deal with the Texans worth $72 million.
Running back, Ronnie Hillman. He was also released.
Have released Owen Daniels, ESPN is reporting.
3 days ago, the Eagles did re-sign Evan Mathis to a 5-year, $25 million contract.
That already locked up Malik Jackson on a 6-year, $90 million deal.
Well, he signs a 4-year contract with the Chicago Bears. Trevathan, leading tackler for Denver last season.
In the draft, the Broncos would make a few notable picks, including Justin Simmons and Adam Gotsis. But the pick that Broncos fans remember most from the 2016 class was this one.
The 26th pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Paxton Lynch, quarterback, Memphis.
We'll get back to him later. Going into the season, the Broncos had a 3-man quarterback battle to try and replace Manning, which consisted of veteran quarterback Mark Sanchez, rookie quarterback Paxton Lynch, and second-year, 7th-round draft pick Trevor Siemian. To the surprise of fans, Siemian would end up winning the job going into the year. I'm going to put a starting quarterback counter in the corner of the video, because he would be far from the last one the Broncos would have in this time. Siemian and the Broncos would get off to a 3-0 start before he would get injured part of the way through their game against the 1-3 Buccaneers. Paxton Lynch would then make his NFL debut, and while he wasn't great, he didn't turn the ball over and threw for a touchdown. This would be enough for Gary Kubiak to start Lynch the following week, this time against the Atlanta Falcons.
Paxton Lynch in his own end zone, and that's intercepted. He hung it up in the air, and Ricardo Allen came over and picked it off.
This game would be where Lynch would see his first struggles. He'd only throw for just over 200 yards with a touchdown and an interception, all while being sacked 6 times, as the Broncos suffered their first loss by a score of 23-16. Lynch would be benched in the following game, but even with Simeon back under center, the Broncos would lose again the following week. The rest of the season would be up and down for Denver. Lynch would make one more start against the Jaguars and have another awful game. Along with this, a 3-game losing streak at the end of the year would land the Broncos at 9-7, missing the playoffs. There were a few highlights in this season. Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders would both go for 1,000 yards receiving, and the Broncos' defense was among the best in the league, allowing the 4th least points per game. Trevor Siemian, while not great, would have a solid season, throwing for 3,401 yards with 18 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. But, unfortunately for Denver, this would be the best quarterback season they would have during this span.
Coach, it's a pleasure to be with you guys here on the field from up close, just watching Coach Vance Joseph from here. You watch him now on the screen. This diversity in his background is helping him a lot tonight. Quarterback at Colorado, defensive back in the NFL, and here he is having the time of his life.
2017 would prove to be about as close to a nothing offseason as you can have. The Broncos' biggest move was selecting offensive tackle Garrett Bowles in the first round of the draft, who's been up and down ever since. They would suffer one major loss in the retirement of DeMarcus Ware, but while they wouldn't lose much in free agency, they really didn't add much either. They would hire new head coach Vance Joseph after the retirement of Gary Kubiak, however. They would begin their 2017 season with a very similar team to the year prior. Their quarterback room still consisted of Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch, which they'd added to by signing Brock Osweiler back to the team in September, so we can go ahead and add him to the starting quarterback counter. They had also brought back the majority of their tough defense from the year before. This season, however, would go in a much different direction.
Simeon nowhere to throw, trying to buy himself some time. Throws it good, and it's intercepted. E.J. Gaines with the pick for Buffalo.
Riley Dixon will punt, averaging 46 yards a punt. And back is Travis Benjamin. Low hang, good bounce. And here comes Benjamin, finding room up the middle, and a sprint with a great block on the play by Adwalu, and there he goes for 6. Travis Benjamin.
I got it.
Simeon, who played his college ball at Northwestern, being chased, and look out, and there's a fumble. McCain got him, and it looked like it may have been vacuumed in by Damian Square of the Chargers. It was. Simeon 4th and 6, moves up nicely. He's got to get to the 25, and he throws the ball, and it is picked up downfield. Casey Hayward has it. And he'll spin it. Derby brings it down. Broncos are going to get shut out for the first time since 1992.
He's got a chance to be a legitimate #1 running back in this league. They fake.
Osweiler's intercepted. Patrick Robinson out of bounds.
Operating out of the gun. 38-9 Eagles. Osweiler with a late rush. Just throws it up. And it's intercepted. Picked up by Rodney McLeod for Philadelphia. McLeod cuts it back. McLeod still going. Catch made by Charles. Eagles will improve to 8-1 with this victory.
They just couldn't figure out what they were doing on the back end. People running wide open all over the field. It's like he settled in.
And Riley Dixon has it blocked.
Jackson did great work, and I'll tell you, he looks better. He looks sharp out here today.
35. That's on cue. Patrick Chung. It's Bowles who's going to take him down. That is the ultimate kibosh. It'll be Simeon. And it's over his head. And he throws it out of the end zone. And it's going to be a safety this year for Thomas. Starting from the 25, Trevor Simeon's pass, and it's going to be intercepted. Xavier Howard, touchdown. Meanwhile, 4th down here, and Matt Hawk kicking it away. Isaiah McKenzie On his 4, looking for room. In trouble, loses the ball. Sonoris Perry is there, but it looked like McKenzie had recovered the fumble, but it's a safety in any event.
Play action with C.J. Anderson, and Lynch gets sacked. Ball squirts out. Scramble for it. Chiefs come up with it. And it's going to be a scoop and a score. Ramik Wilson, touchdown KC. And 15 to go in their season. Lynch intercepted at the 1-yard line. Picked off by Terrence Mitchell, and he'll run it back all the way out across the 40-yard line. 30-yarder to win it, and it is good. Harrison Butker and Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the Chiefs come to Denver and get a 27-24 win.
The Broncos would finish 5-11, good for dead last in the AFC West as they missed the playoffs for the second straight year after winning a Super Bowl. This was far from the end of their struggles, however, as there were still several more years of this to come.
Someone that you think should make this top 100 list?
Yeah, I definitely should. I'll be, I should probably be number one.
Blizzy, I remember coming in here at OTAs, he had this chip on his shoulder. He walked around with all this air in his chest. He was like, all right, this guy, I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but he got a lot of confidence in himself. Took the starting role, and that was the birth of the Colorado Kid.
The Broncos would look to go in a new direction in 2018. They would trade Trevor Siemian and a 7th-round pick to the Vikings for a 5th-round pick. They would also release 1,000-yard rusher C.J. Anderson and trade star cornerback Aqib Talib to the Rams for a 5th-round pick. Broncos felt they'd found their answer at quarterback as they signed veteran Case Keenum to a 2-year, $25 million deal ahead of the season, releasing Paxton Lynch in the process. Keenum was coming off of a good year for the Vikings where he led them to the playoffs, and the Broncos would have a good draft to build around him as well, selecting names such as Bradley Chubb, Cortland Sutton, Royce Freeman, Josie Jewell, and Deshaun Hamilton, as well as signing undrafted free agent Philip Lindsay. Keep an eye on these players as we move forward though, as despite this star-studded class, just one of these players remains on the team today. The Broncos began 2018 on a good note with a win over Seattle. They would follow that game up with a win over the Raiders in Week 2, and after this seemingly productive offseason, things were finally beginning to turn around for the Broncos, right?
Guys up here. On 3rd and 2, Keenum looking to throw. Pressure coming, he's sacked. Zadarius Smith flying around the edge, and he brings down Keenum. Yard gain for Sanders, so it's 2nd and 1. Keenum lost the football. It was Terrell Suggs who knocked it free by a linebacker. Keenum, and it's picked off. It's Owasu on the return. Owasu down the sideline. Owasu with a flag down. Will go. Touchdown Baltimore. And now we wait to see.
You see linebacker Brandon Marshall is on Kelsey.
Mahomes, he's going to try to get there on his own, and he does so with ease. Showtime. Here's Kelsey in for the score. Here's Hunt, and he's in for the score. Kansas City takes the lead.
3rd and 9 for the Jets. Here's Darnold, airing it out. Deep ball, separation. Caught, Robbie Anderson. Goodbye. Touchdown, Jets. Darnold slings it downfield. Juggle and a grab. Touchdown, Terrell Pryor.
4th and 1. And here is Gurley, and he'll go in for the touchdown. And Gurley will score. Todd Gurley with the touchdown, his 2nd of the game. And the Rams can't hold
By week 9, the Broncos were now 3-6 despite their 2-0 start. They had also traded star wide receiver Demaryius Thomas to the Texans for a 4th and 7th round pick. By the end of December, they'd fire head coach Vance Joseph as they finished the season at 6-10, once again missing the playoffs. The young talent on this team had begun to show some promise despite the lackluster record, however. Rookie wide receiver Courtland Sutton was the team's second leading receiver, while Bradley Chubb recorded 12 sacks and finished 3rd in the Rookie of the Year voting. But most importantly, Phillip Lindsay, the undrafted Broncos running back, had a breakout campaign, rushing for 1,037 yards and 10 touchdowns in 15 games. It was clear the Broncos had some stars on their hands. Now it was just down to how they'd handle them in the following years.
I didn't know he'd be having a return engagement back-to-back.
Double dip. So the Cincinnati Bengals have traded the 42nd pick to the Denver Broncos. And with the 42nd pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Drew Lock, Missouri.
Okay.
Let's go, young fella.
Despite the Broncos' developing offense, they would elect to hire defensive-minded head coach Vic Fangio to start the 2019 season. And as for Case Keenum, despite him starting all 16 games in 2018, his numbers were far from stellar, and they would elect to pull the plug on the experiment, sending him to Washington for a 6th round pick. The next 2 QBs they'd add to the roster would be veteran Joe Flacco, who they'd trade a 4th round pick to the Ravens for, and 2nd round quarterback Drew Lock, who they would select out of Missouri. The Broncos would make a few more notable offseason additions, signing safety Kareem Jackson, along with eventual 7th starting quarterback Brandon Allen and defensive tackle Mike Purcell. But it was the 2019 draft that would give the most growth for their future.
With the 20th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Noah Fant, tight end, Iowa.
With the 41st pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Dalton Reisner, Kansas State. And with the 42nd pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Drew Lock, Missouri.
Okay.
Let's go, young fella.
Yet, despite another great class of talent, in 2024, not even one of these players remains with the team. But on to the 2019 season. The Broncos hoped that Flacco would finally be the answer to get them into the playoffs, but through the first 4 games, this team was going nowhere.
Dwayne Harris is back in the end zone in case he comes up short.
64-yard attempt on the way. No good.
At the 40. And here's the pass, and it's intercepted by Fuller. And out of bounds he goes.
Powering through this area of the field that gave him troubles.
Flacco to throw. And intercepted by Savage.
Minshew hanging in there. Stays on his feet again, dancing around, dodging tacklers, now throws end zone, caught, touchdown! Minshew magic!
The one bright spot to start the year was Courtland Sutton, who was emerging as a star in the receiving game. With how well he was playing, the Broncos decided to trade their other star receiver in Emmanuel Sanders to the 49ers for a few day 2 picks. Now, I want to pause at this point just so we can examine the direction of the team. Since winning the Super Bowl, the Broncos had been a constant stop and start operation with how John Elway was building the team. They refused to go all out and rebuild, as by this point they were still hanging on to aging stars like Von Miller, Derek Wolfe, and Shelby Harris. But despite not wanting to rebuild, they were also refusing to add around their young star talent, searching for an aging answer at quarterback and trading away other star players for little to nothing. I'll warn you now, this is far from the worst this theme gets for this team, but I just want to draw your attention to it as we move along. Just before week 9, Joe Flacco would suffer a neck injury which would prove to be season-ending, and also the end of his time in Denver. This left the Broncos to search for a replacement at the quarterback spot, And the first man they would turn to as the backup was veteran quarterback Brandon Allen. Allen led the Broncos to a surprising win over the Browns in his first week as the starter, which sent a pretty good message to the coaching staff as he would start the following 2 games as well. While he was decent in their game against the Vikings, they would still lose, and after a very poor performance against the Bills the next week, he would make his way back to the bench. This would make way for quarterback number 7 since Manning, the young rookie out of Missouri, Drew Lock. There were ups and downs for the young QB in his first few starts, but it was clear he had some serious star potential.
What the heck am I saying?
Start of the third quarter, you're on the bench.
Gosh dang it. I was sitting on that.
Play fake to Lindsey. Lock, end zone, wide open, touchdown. Pressure's coming, Lock taking a deep shot. Wide open is Hamler, and it's a touchdown. Oh, it's 1st and 10. Lock looking deep for Hamler. He's got a step. He's got it. Touchdown, Denver.
Lock's solid performance down the stretch alongside great years from Lindsey and Sutton would be enough to improve the Broncos' final record to 7-9, and while they missed the playoffs, things were finally beginning to look up in Denver.
Situation in Denver when you're trying to get your quality control guy to play quarterback with a day's notice. They're strange times for everybody across the board. But Rex, I think for a lot of people, when they hear you don't have a quarterback, they assume panic sets in from a coach's perspective. But you're telling me there's actually a plan for this.
Ah yes, welcome to 2020, a horrible year for the world as a whole and an even worse one for Broncos fans. If you wanted to write a book on how to kill a young team's momentum, go ahead and copy down every single thing the Broncos did in this season and you would be a best-selling author. Let's start by looking at their offseason moves. The Broncos lost some key players to free agency such as Chris Harris Jr., Adam Gotsis, and Derek Wolfe. But they were able to bring back the likes of Justin Simmons and Shelby Harris, so not all bad on that end. Their new additions, though, were something to behold. The Broncos had made it clear they wanted to keep Drew Lock as their starter for this year, but after old man Flacco failed a physical, they needed to look elsewhere for a backup. They would bring in Jeff Driscoll and the latest in a long line of washed-up quarterbacks, Blake Bortles, who would never appear in a game for the team. The real head-scratcher, though, comes on March 20th of that spring. The most secure position other than defensive end that the Broncos had at this point was running back. They had Phillip Lindsay, who had just gone for back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons and was on an incredibly cheap undrafted rookie deal. And behind him, they had Royce Freeman, who had worked as an effective change of pace back for the past 2 years. So what did the Broncos elect to do for their big offseason addition to try and get this team in the playoffs? They would sign an aging Melvin Gordon to a 2-year, $16 million contract. And what's more, they would follow this up by laying an egg in the draft. Guys like KJ Hamler and Alberto Okwuegbunam showed flashes, and Justin Sternad ended up being a bit of a late bloomer, but the rest of this draft did nothing for the team. All of which is topped off by their first-round pick, Jerry Jeudy.
Here they come, Wilson throws! Get it out of the hands of Jeudy!
When they made the Jeudy selection, CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson were still on the board. I feel like I speak for every Broncos fan and their mother when I say I was screaming at them through my TV to take one of these two. But no, Elway decided Jeudy was their best choice. So, let's see how that season turned out. Drew Lock would start the season off with a bang, getting injured by week 2, which would propel our next 2 quarterbacks into the spotlight. First up was offseason signing Jeff Driscoll, and in his first and only start, he would throw for 176 yards and 1 touchdown with an interception, completing 17 of his 30 pass attempts against Tom Brady. Yeah, the Broncos lost that game. So next on the chopping block was Brett Rippon. Despite him throwing 3 interceptions, the Broncos would somehow beat the Jets, mostly on the back of a 107-yard, 2-touchdown performance from Melvin Gordon. This performance was so good, in fact, that it made the Broncos coaching staff refuse to stop giving him the ball for the next 3 years. Philip Lindsay was already seeing a great decrease in carries, despite the fact that he actually was averaging more yards per carry than Gordon. But this game would signal the beginning of the end for the young running back, as the organization was all in on their fancy new signing moving forward. The good news for the Broncos, though, was that Drew Lock was back and playing some solid football. That was until the infamous Week 12 game against the New Orleans Saints. Jeff Driscoll would contract COVID, and since he had been in contact with the Broncos' entire quarterback room, the Broncos had no quarterbacks eligible to play in this game. The league decided the game would happen anyways, which forced the Broncos to use their emergency quarterback, practice squad wide receiver Kendall Hinton. Hinton had played quarterback at Wake Forest, but at this point, that was 3 years ago. Oh yeah, and he was the backup there. The game went as expected. Hinton completed just 1 pass, and the Broncos got killed. Denver would win just 1 more game for the rest of the season, finishing 5-11 and once again missing the playoffs. There weren't nearly as many bright spots this year as there had been previously. Defensively, Justin Simmons and Bradley Chubb led the way in place of an injured Von Miller, but outside of their performance, just about everything was worse than the year before. Melvin Gordon went for under 1,000 yards while eating carries from Philip Lindsay. Jerry Jeudy led the team in receiving, but had just 856 yards with almost as many drops, while Courtland Sutton missed almost the entire season. So, what once looked like a promising future for this team now sat uncertain as they moved into the offseason.
Melvin Gordon. Straight ahead.
Oh, the ball's out.
Coming out of there with the football is Darius Slay. Slay on the move to the outside. Blockers in front of him. Slay!
To begin 2021, Vic Fangio was still the head coach of the Broncos. His staff felt no need for Philip Lindsay anymore after the season from Melvin Gordon the year before, so they let him walk in free agency. Speaking strictly from a fan perspective here, I can't even describe how much that move still infuriates me to this day. He was seriously the future for the Broncos, but they just had to get their money's worth from Melvin McFumbles III. Not much was done in free agency, with the most notable pickups being Ronald Darby and Kyle Fuller, who would both have pretty disappointing years despite having some somewhat high expectations coming in. The Broncos would also release Deshaun Hamilton and Brett Rippon, but still nothing too crazy for free agents. The draft, however, I cannot lie, they cooked on this one.
With the 9th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Pat Surtain, Jr., defensive back, Alabama.
So, Patrick Surtain has just had his own football dream realized. That's a name familiar to a lot of NFL fans. His father's played for many years in the NFL. He's going to have his hands full with wide receivers from Kansas City and Las Vegas, and of course, Los Angeles coming his way twice a year.
Might spend early draft capital on there. Landon Dickerson falling down.
Javonte Williams.
Oh, wow.
So Philip Lindsay out, right? Like Philip Lindsay out. You need a playmaker back there. Javonte, the Thunder of the Thunder and Lightning out of North Carolina, right? Like he was the big back of the two.
So this is our
I mean, like,
ooh, nice pick here.
Aaron Browning, you like this?
Of the night.
I do, yeah. Super athletic. Yeah, last pick of the night out of Ohio State. The Broncos pick him up at pick number 105 to close out the evening. And
did nothing to dissuade the Broncos brass from bringing in the Texas ball hawk, Caden Stearns.
Producer Sam Brown's Denver Broncos pick 239.
Denver's crushing it,
Jonathan
man.
Cooper, edge rusher out of Ohio State.
During the draft, the Broncos would also trade their 6th-round pick to the Panthers for quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, who would win the starting job over Drew Lock to the surprise of many. The season began, and it followed a similar theme to years past. There was just not much of note going on. The Broncos were up and down, and you never really knew which games they'd win or lose. Pat Surtain was breaking out as a rookie, and Javonte Williams was showing some real talent. But, in true Broncos fashion, they still decided to give the majority of the carries to Gordon. This type of thing is the reason I make this argument for the Broncos fans having the worst experience of this time period. At least when you're consistently losing like the Jaguars or Panthers, you have top-level draft talent to look forward to. But for the Broncos, they were trapped in such a loop of mediocrity that it seemed never-ending. It was evident in their choice to start Bridgewater for all but 3 games in 2021 as well, and they would have likely started him for those other 3 games if he hadn't been injured. Starting him essentially guaranteed mediocrity, as if they had started Locke, eventually it would have either given him a breakout opportunity or the Broncos could have tanked for a higher pick. But nope, Bridgewater all the way, baby. The Broncos also chose to trade Von Miller to the Rams in November for a 2nd and 3rd round pick, yet still refused to go all out and rebuild. They would finish the year at a mediocre 7-10, and once again missed the playoffs.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.
The 2022 offseason was highlighted by the Broncos' search for an elite-level veteran quarterback to finally push them into the playoffs. They hired Nathaniel Hackett as the head coach, and since he was the former offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, they hoped it would help them bring in back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers. Well, those plans fell through when the Packers revealed they wouldn't be trading him, and so the Broncos were left to pivot. Denver would decide to make a blockbuster trade, sending Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris along with 2 first-round, 2 second-round, and a 5th-round pick to the Seahawks for quarterback Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick. Promptly after this, the Broncos would extend Wilson on a $242.5 million deal before he'd even played a snap. Let's look at their offseason moves to build around their new quarterback. The biggest signings would consist of defensive end Randy Gregory, defensive tackle DJ Jones, cornerback Jaquan McMillan, linebacker Alex Singleton, and cornerback K'Wan Williams. They had also somewhat realized their mistake in going all in on Melvin Gordon at this point, despite renewing his contract. They would sign a plethora of running backs to try and find a safety valve if his play continued to decline. Those running backs included Tyler Beatty, Jaquan Hardy, Marlon Mack, Latavius Murray, Divine Ozigbo, and Stevie Scott. Murray would end up being the one to emerge from the bunch, and would actually lead the team in rushing yards that year following a Javonte Williams injury. As for the draft, Nick Bonito is the only one who's really done much of note to this point, but they didn't have a ton of picks to begin with since they all got traded to Seattle. And now we get to the season. Rather than explain my way through this one, I'll just let the footage speak for itself. Close your eyes for this one, Broncos fans.
From 64, McManus missed it. And the Seahawks are going to win this game.
Wilson dancing out of the pocket and throws it away. And once again, with boos raining down, Denver is not able to get it done in a goal-to-go situation.
12-yard sack, choosing not to use that last time out. Cost him 15 seconds. Garoppolo just trying to get it out. Wilson has it on the run. Lost the football. Denver's got it. And Denver's got this one.
They need the 35, 4th and 5.
Well, they just dropped the safety down in there.
Wilson and dropped by Boone.
Anyway.
They're leaving. The Broncos fans are bailing.
They've had enough.
It's 9-9. They're like, the heck with it. I'm out.
Yep.
I'm out of here. That's crazy.
Sometimes you just got to beat the traffic.
That's good. Scott puts it down. That's good. The kick is good. and the Chargers win it in overtime.
And I think that's why they overturned that one incomplete, fellas.
But that was thorough and complete then in that review. Excellent job.
This could be your ball game.
Ripping downfield, knocked away, and that will do it.
Russ wants it himself, wanted the push from Andrew Beck, and they're still going at it now. Clock's still winding too, by the way. Let's see, they're going to give him the first down. There's the indication. First down, Denver Broncos.
Good for you.
And the Broncos are going to win this game.
Times today. 4th and 8. Wilson throws on the run, and it is intercepted by Terrence Mitchell. Fake to Jacobs. Carr loads up. Adams is open. Walk-off touchdown. A sweep of the Broncos for Las Vegas.
Plays. The offense was not working, so I needed to hand it off. Russell Wilson is going to go sack. Goes down inside the 35. Brian Burns with menace.
A 63-yard try for the lead and the game. Ball put down. Kick is away. Short.
Down and 3 for Denver. Rippon trying to convert. Rippon out of the pocket. Rippon hit as he throws. And that was a duck intercepted by Snead.
So Wilson going into the protocol, that's what's going to happen this week with Colt McCoy.
McSorley throws.
Picked.
And intercepted. He was looking for Hopkins and Surtain. His second of the season. Back-to-back weeks. The pick. And this loss will eliminate the Arizona Cardinals from any faint playoff hopes.
And the Broncos, and those are the big horsey players, they have the ball, and they're going to see if they can find a way to move it.
Oh, nice.
And so what's happening? Oh, there's Russ Wilson. Oh, no! Oh, that's called an interception.
That's close. It's Bobby Wagner.
That's not what he wanted to cook.
Turned out to be a typical divisional rivalry game. The Chiefs survive 27-24.
Big thing for Los Angeles after this game, the health of Mike Williams, who suffered a back injury. Hopefully he's okay. The Broncos win their 5th game of the year.
So a $200 million quarterback and a fired Nathaniel Hackett later, and the Broncos finished the year 5-12. Honestly, the only time I felt something during this season was when they finally released Melvin Gordon. For years, this team refused to rebuild, and when they finally went all in a playoff push, it flopped massively. It looked like it was genuinely going to take a miracle to save them at this point.
The Broncos right now, the talent is not good enough. The coaching is not good enough. The scouting department is not good enough. The only thing good enough is the owners, because they've invested a ton of money to build this roster, to get the best coaches, and that yesterday was unacceptable.
Well, if there's going to be a miracle, there has to be a miracle worker. The Broncos looked for that miracle worker in Sean Payton, and man, they better hope he is one, because look at that contract. Not to mention, they gave up a 1st and 2nd round pick to hire him out of retirement from the Saints. Denver would double down on their attempt to make the playoffs with Wilson, adding established starters via free agency. These were a few of the notable names they picked up. Unfortunately, Allen, Humphrey, and Powers are the only ones who've really been beneficial to this team so far, which also only really started this year in 2024. They also got no players from the draft who would contribute heavily that year, and it was clear that this was a runaway train headed for more disaster. We'll start this season at week 6. By then, the Broncos were 1-5 and had also played the worst game of the year against the Dolphins, losing by a score of 70-20. I was getting to the point where I didn't think I'd ever believe in this team again.
It's a 1st and 10. Williams bouncing, breaking tackles, into the... And he's missed one field goal. This is a 32-yarder, and got a 32-yard field goal. They began this drive at their 20. Quick hitter. Here's Will Lutz, who kicked for Sean Payton down in New Orleans. This is a 29-yard field goal try. Buries it through. And from 43, he misses. Wilson. Dan Ashworth's blocked. He got away right there from Wooden. There goes Russ. 35-yard try by Les. Drills it. Green Bay's defense has been terrific, limiting them to 3 field goals. 3rd down 4. Here goes Russ. He's got him. Touchdown, Sutton. And they beat Douglas. Here they come, rushing 5. Across the middle, they got Judy. He breaks 1 tackle right there, Nixon. 52-yard field goal for the lead. It is good. Tom with the block, going deep and looking. It's intercepted. It's picked off by Luck.
Wait, did we just beat the Packers? Well, I'm sure that was a fluke. They got Kansas City next week. I'm sure there's no way.
2 tight ends. It's 2nd and goal. Wilson. Williams. Miners a block. Bowles a block. And that is a Denver touchdown.
Things give an easy 1st down.
1st and 10. And it is Delta Scanling. Ball yard 3. On the hit by Jewell. It's vacuumed in by Simmons. Near or at Kansas City's zone. From the 50 here, 1st and 10, blocked by Bowles. He's got him deep, and what a catch at the 10. It's a 2nd down and 10. To the end zone, he's got him. Shooting, touchdown. He beats Jalen Watson. Checo back in, 1st and 10. Taylor block, had a nice block on that last play. It's intercepted. It's picked off on the play. Jaquan McMillan. Dixon in there, who will punt the ball. Cole Hardman is back. Oh, he fumbled the ball! He fumbled the ball! It's taken in. They'll say it's down at the 9. Rosen with a 2nd down and goal. Blocked by Troutman. Here comes Karlaftis. There goes Wilson. Touchdown! Sutton, touchdown Denver! They'll empty the backfield. Now he's going to keep McKinnon. 4th and 2. And he's going deep and more. Incomplete. 4th and 22. Mahomes getting away from Benito and then just heaving it downfield, and it's intercepted. Picked up by Justin Simmons. 5th time he's gotten Mahomes in his career. Now a 28-yard field goal. Perfect.
Wait, what just happened? We just beat the Chiefs for the first time since 2016. Y'all gotta stop cooking, you're gonna make me believe.
Put Cook in the slot. And throw it to him. Decent gain on 1st down. The ball gets ripped out. And it is an early takeaway by the Denver Broncos. Jaquan McMillan. And Lutz got it. Patty, 9 catches the week before. Couldn't handle that throw from Josh Allen. Here's one floated and a nice spinning catch by Lil Jordan Humphrey. Wilson sets up and spinning around to the back of the end zone. Sutton. Here's the call.
After reviewing the play, the runner completed the pass. Touchdown.
Blitz coming from Bernard. Broncos pick it up. Sutton's got the big play. And out of bounds inside. A 49-yard try into a swirling wind. Lutz got it. Working with the wind. This one is picked. Another takeaway intercepted by Moreau. Points off the first 2 takeaways total. So credit the Bills defense with stepping up. 3rd down. Pass is caught.
Well, they're short, Joe, so now they've got to run the field goal team on in a hurry. This is going to be tough.
They got to get it lined up. No timeouts. They do so well. Good snap, good hold, good kick. And I'm sure a smile. Wilson flips it. Pass is caught. First down. 12th play of the drive. Wilson gets rid of it for the touchdown to Javonte Williams. This one up for Judy. There is contact and a flag. There's nothing guaranteed. Good snap, good hold. Kick, perfect. And the Broncos have come to Buffalo. And they're going to leave with a win.
That's it. We're going to the Super Bowl. The Broncos were actually looking like a legit football team for the first time in years, and with another win over the Browns the following week, they were true playoff contenders. They would fall to the Texans in Week 13, but I think we all expected that. They played them tough and then beat the Chargers the week after, so nothing to be worried about. We're still going to the Super Bowl, trust.
6 hours later.
And just like that, the Broncos presented their fans with the Christmas gift of Broncosing the first promising season in years. They benched Wilson to end the year, so go ahead and add Jarrett Stidham to the starting quarterback counter. But by the end of another 8-9 midfest by the Broncos, I had to ask myself the question of how I didn't see this coming all along. Regardless of the situation, for years and years now, the Broncos have always found a way to be as mediocre as possible and accomplish nothing. And rather than keep losing when we had the chance, we gave away our top-level draft pick on a silver platter as we once again fell short of the playoffs. Finally, in 2024, things are beginning to turn around in Denver. Russell Wilson got cut, which was the happiest $85 million in dead cap I have ever seen my team eat. They also drafted Bo Nix, who has been a serious breath of fresh air, so he'll be the final addition to the quarterback counter for this video. He finally broke the curse and guided them to a playoff berth in 2024, and I can't lie, my hopes are pretty high for our future. But with that said, I still try to catch myself when I think like this. The Broncos experience has been unique torture over the last few years, and I always have to remind myself that moments like this continue to happen.
Kick to win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won!